said yesterday that I'm not an I'm not a specialist. Let me say that way. I'm a computer science graduate. Then I did my MBA, then my PhD in data science. But my family background is my parents are farmers. Let's say that way, and I happen to work in agriculture division of BSF. So we make pesticides, herbicides, but one of my best friend, or like the friend from last 30 years, he is a food scientist. So he did his bachelor's in from Agriculture University, ICAR, and then master's from CFTRI. And in 2006, when we graduated from our bachelor, as a young guys, we have a lot of time, so we said, what should we do? Yeah. And since we came from a very small place in Bihar, where we have to so I'm away from my family when I was 8, 9 years old. And then we realized that education is too difficult to get, in those small places. So we thought we should do something to help people to prepare for exam. So in 2006, we started a startup called Food Tech Patsala. The idea was that we wanted to gamify exam preparation, so the way you play Fruit Ninja, the fruits will come down and you cut it. So we said, okay,
Yeah.
the question would be there and the answer will fall and you will, like slice it. To our surprise, it was an instant hit because there was nothing like that at that time. And my friend has written some books on preparing for agriculture exams, so his name is Sanjeev Kumar Sharma, believed to be, right now he's a Asia Pacific head in Cadbury. So that's where we started building it up, But since we both were doing a full-time job, so we could not handle that. Now we gave it a couple of years ago. We gave it to Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce. We said, hey, you can take it for free. Our intention is more to have this available for all the students, kind of thing, So more of giving it back to society. But then we keep engaging with the students and different companies to motivate people to work in food industry. So we wrote some research paper on blockchain. How does adulteration in food, impact all those things? So yeah, trying to contribute from that side. Yeah. Uh, because of my family background, and I have seen things very closely, and I know you would be knowing that in India, still farming, except for some parts of the country, farming is still not a beneficiary. You don't make money out of it. It's like hand to mouth kind of thing, correct? So, hey, hi, Roshan. Hey, you can hear us, or you're still working on hearing us?
Can you hear us, Roshan? Roshan, can you hear us?
Okay. So while he joins that, we can continue. So yeah, so that's the reason why we wanted to see how do we bring more people, because right now, if you see, of course we can talk about those topics, but right now what you see is different countries, especially the agriculture based countries in like India, Brazil, where agriculture is still most, like 60% of population still depends upon agriculture. We have different types of problem, like in India, we have a lot of human resources, but there is a big chunk of urbanization that is happening. So people from villages are moving to big cities. People like me, people like my parents, we moved to big cities because we could not earn enough money from farming. So what has it resulted into is there are a lot of farmlands, either they're lying barren or people are putting plantation. So for example, even I have a lot of farmlands where I put just mango trees or you know plantation because I can't keep up with the farming. And that has resulted into, let's say, not a good outcome for the food industry, because in the pulses and the crops are not getting cultivated. Now, if you look at next 10 years, let's say next 6 years, how the world would look like in 2030, if I have to talk about that.
Yeah.
So we have four things which we can think of. Population growth, for example. 9 billion people would need food. 9 billion. High demand for calories and protein. because the middle class is growing, and middle class, they eat pulses, khichdi, for example. Yeah.
yeah,
Now the problem is that we don't have enough people who are interested into farming. Everybody wants to move to big cities to have this 9 to 5 job, white collar jobs where they can earn money. The area which is arable, that is getting lower and lower because, for example, Bangalore or the outskirts of Bangalore, there's no water left. Yeah. And on top of all of this, there is a huge climate change impact that is impacting our crop production. So, for example, the place where I live in Germany is like wine region, So you see a lot of wine fields, grapes farming. But because of extra temperature, because the summers are getting more warmer, the grapes are getting ripped before. So the quality of Riesling wine that is supposed to be produced in this area is deteriorating. So the farmers have to harvest the grapes beforehand. So if you look at the world, it has changed drastically, yeah. And the next 6 years, next 10 years, it is more challenging if you ask me that way. Yeah? How do you cope up with that? How do you how do you handle that? Now that's how the world would be in 2030. If you look at the society, because most of the people say, hey, you know what? In Germany, we have a aging population. We don't have too many farmers to do the farming. And when I tell them that, hey, I come from a place in India where many times my potatoes are still in the field because I could not find people to take it out. We don't have enough resources. And just come on, that cannot be true. So you also have to look to the society, how it is evolving or how it is changing. None of us, let's be very honest, including me, none of us wants to be in the field. We want to be in this sophisticated place and making some good business and travel and all those things. So society, if we want to see like next 6 years or 10 years, there is a lot of urbanization that is happening. Look at the cities like Gurgaon or Mumbai. The people from all India are moving to all those big cities. So there's a lot of increased urbanization that is happening. Digital technology needs to be adopted because you cannot rely on only labor and human resources to do all the field work. And with all this war, there are a lot of trade conflict, Ukraine war, conflict in Gaza. There's a lot of fraction, which is also resulting into a lot of local food demand. When the Ukraine war started, I think most of you would have realized that the oil prices, cooking oil prices, gone very high because all the sunflowers oil used to come from Ukraine. Wheat, the price has gone very high. And the society is also evolving in terms of they are demanding for more healthy, sustainable food. You want to have less CO2 kind of, the production should be less CO2 or carbon neutral, for example. So there's a more demand from consumers. They want to have more transparency. They want to have more sustainability, products produced more sustainable. And among all of this, if you see, there is a lot of regulatory pressure. The government is also putting a lot of regulatory pressure. You have to follow this rule, this cannot be used, that cannot be used. So the world is changing, the society is changing. How we as agriculturalists, how we as a food technologists, what do we need to do? That's the biggest question which we should think of. As a young entrepreneur, as a young student, you have to think how we can contribute there, what we can do. So basically, when I look at 2030 from the farming perspective, I see that somehow we will have to increase by 50%. We will have to increase our productivity. We have to make sure that the yield from the same farmland is much, much more than what we are getting now. Which also means that we have to make sure that those crops are well protected from different fungicides, insecticides. So we have to have a better crop protection. We also need to fulfill the sustainability requirement because You have to bring all those regulations in place. How do you make sure that biodiversity, CO2, natural farming, transparency, all of this comes into place? I don't know if you're aware, in Europe, Spain is one of the country where you get a lot of vegetables, where we grow a lot of vegetables. Unfortunately, right now, because of this humid climatic changes that is happening, this vegetable plantation or the growers in Spain, they are facing a new kind of challenges. They find different kinds of insects or pests in their vegetable farms, which so what does it mean? It means that now we will have to look for new pesticides, new insecticides, or how to tackle that. And I think it's not a surprise for all of you that any such product takes at least 5 to 6 years to be developed before you can start using it. How do you sort in that development cycle? How do you sort in those innovation cycles so that you can be more effective and you can tackle such things more easily? Now, I think this whole group is from India, and I can share this with you. In India, farming is still a family kind of activity. So the whole family is in the farm, and might be the activity or the things that you do in farm could be done by one person or one person and some machines, but you see the whole 5 or 6 people from the family is working in the farm. So there is no professionalism in farming in India, and therefore it is not a beneficial use case. So for example, my grandfathers and his three of his sons, they all were in the farm. Now 6 7 people wholly depending on that farm cannot be a good outcome. So how do you bring more digitization? How do you bring more focus and streamline the farming so that it's not so manual and you still have a more efficiency in terms of the effort you're putting there? These are the three broader things which I look at when we look at farming, food processing, and agriculture for the next 6 to 10 years. How the demand of the world is changing, how the society is evolving, and we as experts, we as people who can contribute to farming, what needs to be done. That would be my framing of the challenges that we are facing and why it is so important, or why you see me talking so much about this to different people, even though I'm not a hardcore agriculturist. I think right now is a perfect time where you do not need to be a farmer, but still with your technical know-how, with your technologies, you can bring more efficiency in farming. We need people like you, people like us are needed more than ever, because we can go and say, hey, this is not the efficient way. This is how it could be improved. Because you are not carrying the burden or luggage of doing farming by hand or manually. So it's blessing in disguise that you don't know those orthodox method. I was doing a farm visit here, because as a part of my job, I also have to do this customer visits. And I also did some visits in India, to be very honest. And it was really nice to meet some of the farmers there also. So here I went to visit a farmer. He had 480 acres of land. And can you guess how many people he has to work in that farm? 480 acres would be like in India, a complete village, if you put the setup. He has only three people looking and working on. And I said, hey, Matthias, how do you manage it? Hey, I have this application. I put everything here when we need to do what in which field. And these three people are enough to do it. But in India, I was this April there visiting my farmers or our customers in Nasik area. And we also went to, of course, Sula wine because they are also our customer.
Yeah.
Uh, the whole family is there, like 10, 12 people. And I asked, so this farmer, Tukaram, he grows cabbage also and onion. And I said, how do you manage? Because you have 12 people and then the next generation will come. The farmland is not increasing. It's the same farmland which you own from your forefathers. It might get further divided. In India, we have this also the
Yeah.
problem. It's divided, and the farmland becomes so small that you can't even take a tractor because further divided into three, four, and all. In Germany, and I don't know if you are aware, there is a rule that you cannot divide a land to further than a particular size, and the eldest brother of the sibling, has the right first to take all those land and compensate the others if he doesn't take the next one. But you can't divide that further, and therefore you see such a huge land here where you can take all this big harvester and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
In India, we can't do that. So you see the different types of challenges. How do you handle it? How do you manage it? That would be something which we are doing. That's the farming part of it, agriculture part of it. The moment you move this to food processing, the challenges are twofold. There's no transparency. We really don't know what we eat. Digital certificates, they are not there. And if they are there, you're not even sure if they are the right one. Adulteration in food is like anything. So now the Diwali season is coming. I fear to eat sweets in India because 90% chances are there that the milk or the dairy product would be already adulterated. How do you manage that? And this is again where technology comes into picture. People like you can help to come up with our blockchain logic, or can come with some AI enabled logic which can help. So this is how I see this whole area where we have to tackle.
Yeah. Sir, I have one question. As you mentioned that we have to increase the yield in upcoming years, do you see in any sustainable way we can do it? We can achieve that target?
Um, I don't know how much you know farming or if you have seen it. So when I was a small kid, we used to have this bullock cart, and my grandfather used to take the cow dung. So the cow
Yeah.
dung farms, and we used to have that as a fertilizer. And then what happened was somehow with the Western influence, we changed it from there and we started using urea and all those.
Yeah.
You know what right now we're doing here? They are going back to the cow dung because that contains more nitrogen and you can preserve more nitrogen with those cow dung. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, we have to be very pragmatic and have to relook at our old practices, not from the lens of modernization, but from the lens of why it was working and can we improve it a little bit further, so we can still use cow dung, but might be we need to add something more to have a better outcome. So right now, a lot of initiatives are going on with nitrogen farming, for example, making sure that the soils, they don't lose the nitrogen. So from my perspective, yes, I do see a future where we can produce more sustainably. There is a lack of education. There is a lack of enforcement of regulation, and there's always this one or the other country where you find a loophole to have that production. At the same time, the world should look at, it should be one plain rule. That means Europe should not look at dumping all those heavy chemicals into Thailand or to India or to those countries to produce cheaply, because at the end of the day, the soil and the food is the same, which is part of the food value chain across the board.
Yeah. Okay. So, sir, our main focus is on AI and how we can manage waste, food waste through AI application.
Mhm.
So, we'll go with very basic because for a student like us, we are new in this field. How you see AI in food sector and how you see it can help.
So AI in food waste management, or AI in general?
First in general, and then you can talk about food waste. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, again, might be later on you can have this for your reference. So there is one small paper which we published couple of days, like I think almost a year ago, with some researchers from IIT Delhi. And the idea here was that we wanted to show it's more of a literature review, I can say, which brings how artificial intelligence can impact sustainability. So bringing all those different. So I will send a link to that paper or the paper itself where you can see. Uh, so when we talk of AI, right now there are multiple factors where it is, or multiple touch points where AI can impact us. For example, when you look at AI, it can give you a clarity in terms of how much. So, for example, um, if you get barley, if you import barley from Netherlands to Germany, and if you import barley from, say, Brazil, besides the cost factor, what do you think? Which barley would be more sustainable?
From Netherlands or nearby.
Okay, so
Yeah,
transportation cost. That's the.
yeah, the carbon emission will be reduced.
Anybody else has any idea what could be additional thing? So we did a project called like sustainability calculator. And what Ashi said is also what default I thought, that hey, transportation cost, so it cost in the terms of CO2 product, no, CO2 footprint and all. But actually, the barley from Netherlands would be still better because the per hectare production of barley is much higher in Netherlands. So with the same area, you will be producing more barley in Netherlands using water more efficiently. So when you start looking at different factors which contributes to overall impact of CO2, you will realize that Netherlands barley are better. And we could only do this calculation because we wrote an algorithm where we look for different factors. So AI can help you to dig into all those different factors and different data and insights, which can help you to really calculate the impact of a particular product or a particular thing that you're growing. So there could be as many as hundreds of parameters which is defining, and for human brain or for human calculation, you might miss on one or the other. So to make a better decision, should I buy barley from Netherlands or from Brazil, we have such kind of applications. That's one thing. Now, normally in food industry, we always look for the value chain. That means right from growing it in the farm till it is getting processed. How do you know at which phase what is your CO2 footprint, what is the better option? So if Roshan said that, Roshan says that I want to produce sustainably. I want to say, for example, tomorrow Cadbury says that I want to make Cadbury silk most sustainable way. Now he cannot just think of packaging Cadbury silk into a sustainable wrapper and he will say it's sustainable. He will have to go back to the cocoa plantation and see, is the plantation for cocoa is being done in sustainable way? Are they using fertilizers or water or herbicide or pesticides which are sustainable? Are the raw materials used for use in setting up the plantation there is sustainable? From there to harvesting cocoa to processing cocoa to finally making a chocolate. This whole value chain, it would be super difficult for him to figure it out manually. AI can help you with all the processes, picking the right numbers, giving the transparency, making it possible that you have a possibility of alternatives. For example, what we did in this case was that we said, let's do a downward calculation. That means I have a product and it should be X% sustainable. What does it mean? So we started figuring out at which stage what would be the CO2 footprint. You can't do this with your humans. You can of course do everything, but it's not possible to do it for each product. This is where AI can help you. This is where AI will help you to have these alternative options, help you to make a better decision, what to procure, what to buy as a raw material, what to process, where to process, where, as Asi was saying, that you might take into consideration the transportation cost, but you might be missing on the per hectare production, yield, market prices. We all talk of sustainability, but let's be very honest. If I will ask you to pay €1 more for a sustainable product, and I will offer you another product which is less sustainable and it's €1 cheap, might be most of us will buy the cheaper one. So how do you bring this combination of cost optimization and the sustainability factor together and still make your product more attractive? This kind of optimization could be done with the help of AI. That's where I
Sure.
see AI. I will send you the paper which we have written. It
Yeah,
shows
sure, sir.
aspects of how AI can be used. But basically, in a typical definition of AI is that you will be able to do a more informed decision, you know,
Yeah.
getting options.
So like you said, we can do it in more form decisions. Can you tell us like few AI tools or app or solutions which you know which can be helpful in this field?
So right now, there is one software from BSA which is for free. You can Google it. It's not only for egg industry, it's in general, it's called SCOT, Strategic
Oh,
Carbon Controlling Technology. So basically SCCOT, SCOT. Just Google it, or just Google it, carbon footprint calculator BSA. What we have done there is that every product which leaves BSF plant contains exact CO2 footprint that it has been produced at a product level. So that's there. We have this another one which I was just talking about, which is basically now we have renamed it as a Optonics. There, this example of barley and which I gave you, So as a BSF, we are into 6 different divisions, and one of our division is called animal nutrition, where we make animal proteins, the food for like pork and for cow and all. So every animal protein and the food that we make, we do calculation like where to get the barley from, how much to mix it, and normally the nutritionist or the people who or the farmer who is feeding his pork or his cow, they can get this uh, optronics, and there they can put. I know this might sound really bad, but so for example, I have a piglet, and I want to have this piglet to be 1,000 kgs in next 1 year. So we have an app where you can put how you need to feed him so that he gains the weight and he becomes 1,000 kg with carcass. That app basically have this all this where to get the barley and blah 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 and do the sustainability calculator. So it's called Optronics. You can use that. We have a lot of in-house applications which we have developed, using different what we call as a mixed optimization algorithms. So you take cost and the sustainability as a two factor, and you optimize your value chain.
yes, sir. And I have also came across with this BSF as one more AI solution, which is digital farming solutions.
Yes.
Something. Yeah. So
Yes.
can you talk about that a bit?
So we have a dedicated division actually, a dedicated setup called digital farming based out of Cologne. It's global, but the headquarters are like in Cologne. It's basically our division only. It's just that they are focusing. Their main focus is on digital farming. So we have a automatic sprayer, So
Yeah.
instead of putting your spray separately in the same harvester in the same tractor, we put the sprayer. It's a joint collaboration between Bosch and BASF. So we provide the pesticides and insecticides, and we use that. We use drones for that. What we are doing with digital farming is also we are educating farmers. So I will give you an example, and it has happened with me and my family also. So typically, what happens? It could have happened with you also. So you have a headache, you took an aspirin, and you still don't feel good. In the evening, you take 2 tablets. Higher the dose, the better it is, correct? But
Yeah.
actually, it's not. The same thing happens with farmers also. Oh, I see pesticides. Let me put it double dose. You know. So we also realize that you might be making a very good product, but how do you educate them? So what we have come up with is Zavio Field Manager. And what does this Field Manager does? It's an app, and each of you can try. It's a free app at least. So it's an app with Google Maps. It actually shows your land, so you can tag your land, and it will tell you what kind of land you have, the water, is it alkaline, is it acidic, is it needs more water, what kind of. So we provide you a complete information of your land, and then we recommend you, if you are growing corn here, or if you're growing wheat here, what kind of fertilizers, how much compositions, how many times you need to spray. Everything could be managed. And to your surprise, if you Google again and search for Vigyan Ashram, Vigyan Ashram. Vigyan Ashram is a very small setup very close to Pune in a city called Pabal. Again, started by one of the CFTRI legend, he's no more. And they have been doing the same thing manually from last 20 years.
Wow.
But we have just industrialized that. So there what they do, they go to the farms, to the, and they look at they do the soil testing. He said, hey, by the way, your farm is more alkaline, you should not use urea, you should use this and that. All those best practices have been now put into a app. I'm not saying that we were inspired by them, but because I was a
Yeah.
volunteer there in Pabal for a couple of years. But here, digital farmings provide you a state-of-art AI-enabled application. We have a lot of algorithms which was developed along with Google, where we look at your soil, we look at the atmospheric conditions, we forecast how the rain would be, how the season will change, and based on that, we also recommend them how many sprays or how many times they need to put pesticides or insecticides. That's one aspect. The second aspect is also that they are helping farmers with connected offers. That means if they are putting this pesticide, then which seed they should buy. So, end-to-end complete information. It's more of a assistance for the farmer, to see which seed they can use, which crop they should grow, what is the. We also help them with what could be the potential market price in future if, based on the demand. So again, it's AI-driven applications which we are building. Any of you can just download the Javio Field app.
Sure, sir.
You can play with like say that this is my land, and you can play with that kind of trial thing. So it
Yeah.
gives you a real-time image of your field, how what kind of land it is, what is needed to have a more productivity there.
And so the customers who are using it, how improvement you have, like, you came across.
Very good question. So with such kind of app, it's always challenging, correct? Because until it is free, everybody wants to use it, correct? At the moment you ask,
Yeah.
monetize, nobody wants to use it. So what we did was that we said, we pay when you get X amount of yield. And what we have seen that we have there's a lot of people moving to the platform, and what we have seen is that there is always a 7 to 8% minimum better yield than what they were doing in the past. And now more and more farmers are registering and saying that they will only use this app as the source of truth for them. We see that this should increase. Uh, the problem is that in Europe, this is people are still data, they don't want to share the data, and it's always like data privacy. But the same app in Brazil is doing wonders. Latin American company, they don't care about what it is, they put their everything there, so that's bringing wonders. We have not launched it in India, but in Japan, Javio digital farming, which we call as Zabio, is super hit. It's like doing really good. In India, we have a problem with this farm sizes, the land sizes, which I was talking of. We are trying to do that, but it might take some more time. But yeah, that's something which we do.
Yep, by listening all this, we can say that AI became a game changer in all these industries. So, could you please tell us specifically how AI is currently being used to reduce the food waste across the supply chain?
So I will be very honest. My day-to-day work is not related to that because we are not into food as such food, but because of my collaboration as a side pet project, which I always do with my friend who is working in Cadbury, and now the demand or the orders that we do, so right now, for example, he was telling me that in the past, what used to happen, I know I don't name Cadbury, but I'm just trying
Yes,
to
sir.
you, they would get, like for example, I have a plant and I have a storage capacity, correct? So what they used to say, hey, the moment the storage or the cocoa level goes below 60, ask for the next round of delivery. And when the delivery used to come, they will say, oh, but our container is not completely empty, so we will only take half of it and half of it we will return. And this, since these are, some of these are perishable and some of these are, has a shelf life, there used to be a lot of wastage. So now what they've done, they've put a sensor in the container.
Mhm.
And even though the supply chain planner is asking for more, the sensor says that, hey, based on our consumption, based on this is how much we should order. So the raw material procurement has been more, I will say, accurate and more better planned because of this kind of sensors and predictive analytics. They forecast how much cocoa we would need, or how much sugar we would need, or how much any of this raw material we would need in the next couple of months. So predictive forecasting has helped them to procure right amount of raw materials. Similarly for the production also, because in the past what used to happen, you produce more on the gut feeling, saying, hey, this is how much. So the marketing people are out, they come back and say, hey, you know what, X number of the product would be sold. But now with data driven decisions, looking at the pattern, looking at the historical information, and looking at the other factors, if it's a festival time, you see this campaign from Cadbury also. They are now also in Diwali, this packets and
Yeah.
Raksha Bandhan and all those things. They have started taking more informed decisions on demand also. So they don't produce extra or matches. The production is aligned with the demand. So demand and supply has become much easier. At least that's what I know of from the manufacturing companies. I think Zomato and all those companies, they are already using a lot of AI to have a better because in the past they were making, say, this company called Biryani by Kilos.
Yes.
So even and so I one of the guy I know there, and they were saying that now, based on the historical data and based on the season, they exactly know how much biryani would be ordered on a particular day, because biryani is not made immediately. They already prepare it a night before and all. So they already have a very light AI algorithm, but they already have a prediction of how much would be the actual demand for a particular biryani on which day. And that has helped them out to save their production, because biryani after 2 days was supposed to
Yeah.
be, so that,
Got it.
let me say, demand prediction has become much easier for them. So they are only producing how much they can sell. And I will say that is the biggest advantage of having an AI solution, having a better forecast, having better prediction of how much would be the demand from the customer side, especially in the food industry. If any of you happens to visit Coimbatore or the nearby area, there is this Orbindo Hospital.
Yeah.
If on a lighter note, they don't use any AI, they don't use any system, they just use a register book, and they can tell you on a given day how many patient will come for what kind of problem. And we were, we made an official trip there to understand how it works. And their accuracy is as high as 92 to 93%. They will say, I was surprised to see they said next week on Tuesday and on Thursday, we will have so many cases of snake bite. I said, how do you know? It's a rainy season. There is a small market which happens on Tuesday and Thursday. People come there, they return late in the evening, and they get a snake bite. So what I'm trying to say, data was always there. How do you use it? Can you put now? That's a very small case, but if you scale it up, or you have a better idea of what could happen. And this is where I think AI can bring a lot of value to predict, forecast the demand, predict, forecast the usage of those food or the raw material or the final product.
So, likewise, do you have any example from your company or your field where your algorithm
Yeah,
help for
Food,
the
food production, we are more on the little upper in the higher value chain. So we only produce pesticide, insecticides, not the food.
yeah, yeah. No, but in that also, does it help in some way to reduce like
Our production,
more usage?
our
Yeah.
production is completely, data driven. We don't
Mm-hmm.
right from raw material procurement to production. We are completely data driven.
Yeah.
We have demand forecast. We have supply. Everything is data driven.
Yeah.
In fact, even in finance, we have how much money account payable will happen, how much account receivable will happen, how much liquidity we will have. It's completely data driven.
Okay.
We are world's largest chemical company.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
full-time employed more than 1,20,000 full-time. It's huge, so we have to have it.
Fascinating. So
Sorry,
yeah,
Ron.
please.
Go ahead.
So we have to check all the positives and negatives for every sector. So could you please say what are the challenges do you face for using this AI technology?
There are two parts to it. The first part is that when you say AI, so for example, I go back to my village and I say I want to use AI for my farm. There would be no ROI. The cost of implementing AI would be too high for me. So first and foremost thing to have this, we have to make this as a commodity. That means AI by default. You don't need to invest so much to have those infrastructure. Correct.
Yeah.
One thing is the digital divide. There's a huge gap between people's understanding. Means we all are, we all don't have the same AI literacy, correct? So there's a big digital divide. Some of us are using mobile, some of us are not aware of it. The example of digital farming, which I was telling you, you need to log into the system, you need to plot it. So there's a digital divide. The third thing is, which I see more often, we have people who are expert in agriculture, we have people who are expert in food technology, and we have people who are expert in AI, and they don't understand each other's language. So the only reason why me and my friend the Sanjeev, Kumar Sharma from Cadbury, we collaborate so much because he brings those experience from food. I bring all this experience from AI. We can still understand each other, and that's the reason why we collaborate. So all the research paper, all the articles, all the startups that we started was what we were able to do that because of this collaboration. So I think we need to embrace both more in a much better and a simpler way. Mhm. 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 So that's a very good question, to be very honest, because like more like an giving more like a analogy here that we all have limited resources, correct? We all have limited money. We can't go beyond that. How do you spend which part of your money you spend where, correct? So I think Roshan's direction is we have so many problems to solve, but we have only little money to spend. Where should I put it into? Yeah, where should I put it into? Might be Roshan. Before giving answer to that, I will take a step back. So I talked about the view of how world would be in 2030, how the society would evolve, how the farm would evolve. One of the things what we were looking at was what is actually happening right now, across. And we realized that we have climatic changes, extreme weather, too hot, too cold. We saw that there's a lot of regulatory pressure, as you can't use this, you can't use that. We saw that people are talking a lot about sustainability, regenerative AI, regenerative farming. We have lack of laborers, workforce. There is more demand for sustainable food. And for the industry, there is always this pressure of how do you bring more revenue? You know, so these six things actually summarizes what I was talking till now. Now, one thing I will use, and I will tell this, and it might sound funny, to the questions of Rohan, which technology do I see to be more transformative or where you should put your money? I don't want to be diplomatic here, but I will say it depends. For example, in Europe, the biggest problem is labor shortage. So having more drones, more robotic based application will be more impactful here than compared to Asia. In it, but just to know, in Asia, what would be more impactful predicting or forecasting? We all know the onion prices in India, how it goes.
Yeah.
This year the price will be 20 rupee per kg, next year it will be 100. And you won't believe this is a no-brainer. I keep telling this to my father that all you have to do is to plant onion 2 consecutive year. Because everyone plants onion this year, the price goes down. The next year nobody plants onion and the price goes up. So people talk about minimum support prices, MSP in India, correct? But what I strongly recommend is a very clear forecasting of the prices. Then the farmer is assured how much I will get and I will rotate my crop accordingly. I don't know if you guys have been part of that, those kind of things, but when I go to my village, the whole village will decide what they want to grow. Why? Oh, the last year he made a lot of money with that crop, so let's all grow the same thing. And then demand goes down, correct? So for a country like that, I think using AI for forecasting, predicting prices, predicting the profitability is more crucial. In Europe, robotics, drones are more crucial. That's how I say it. Good. Anything else?
Thank you, sir. That's all I think we have.
Great. So I wish you a good luck with your work and
Yes, sir. Before moving further, can you like suggest us as a students what we can do better to be in, like in this field, like what we can do better?
uh, my one of my suggestion would be that visit a farm, go and meet some farmers. That's the first thing I will tell you. You
Mhm.
anywhere, you can also try it in Germany, visit a farm. And when you travel back, whenever next time to India, visit a farm there also. And then you will see the different types of challenges that we face.
Sure, sir.
That's the first thing. Second thing is right now, I personally see a big scope in farming. You can both way. You can do a great job for the society, and you can do a great career in farming with. So be open. Don't just look at the greener side which looks green, but there is a big opportunity, and food processing and farming in India is still the biggest thing that can happen. And if you can do some startup or some innovative idea, prediction of those prices, or really be a good opportunity for you. But to do all those, you need to talk to some farmers. You need to talk to some farmers, visit some farmlands, visit some, you know. And right now you're in Germany, so you have exposure to Netherlands. Netherlands is very high on terms of farming. The productivity is very high. Have a look at that. Look at that, the way they use the water bodies. Look at the way they use water. Just do some field trial in terms of numbers, the per hectare yield of different countries. When you see those numbers, you will be curious to know why there is so much of difference, and that will really help you to understand what the problem is. And yeah, then it should be a good one. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing these insights. It has been a fascinating discussion for us. We learned a lot from you. Thank you so much.
Good luck with your endeavor. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you
Sir.
so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Have a good day, sir.